Hello and shalom. Welcome to the Orphans of Avraham. James with you again. In for John. I'll be hosting, but I don't think John's going to be here. He talked to me this afternoon about doing it on my channel, and I'm like, fine. And as usual, I'm expecting him to, host, but I got to him late because I was at work and I'm back and forth, yada yada things. So went and had dinner with the wife and kids and got back and got everything set up. And I said, and put all the links out there so you can promote it. And the one thing I got from him was good night. And it was like, because it's 1 o'clock in the morning there and he wasn't online. But when he came on, he came on to say good night. So we might not have any. If anybody comes in and wants to chat, that's fine. We can talk. I'm not prepared to teach, but we can chat. But the one thing I wanted to talk about, just to give some folks time to get in here, if they're going to get in here at all, if not, I want to take a second to talk about non-Jews and Shabbat, because it's a controversy. Sometimes it's like when we say non-Jew, which non-Jew do we mean? And I've been a proponent that anybody who's coming to the Torah, coming to Israel, needs to acknowledge Shabbat. You can't keep it like a Jew. They tell you can't keep it like a Jew, and you shouldn't try. And that's kind of what I'm getting at here, because there's a danger to non-Jews keeping Shabbat, or trying to keep Shabbat, trying to recognize it. Like I said, I've been a proponent, but now it's time to tell the other side that no one else talks about, because I can say from experience that you shouldn't try. There was a time when I was not at a very healthy, happy point in life, and I tried to do little things. I thought, I didn't want to work on Friday nights, and I got resistance no matter where I worked for that. And if I did, I wouldn't shave my neck, or I didn't want to come in at a certain time on Saturday. I tried to be Mr. Righteous, and I wasn't exactly living a righteous life. I knew of the Noahide laws. They seemed simple enough, and it was easy to live by them when you don't have any guidance. Well, everything kept kind of going wrong for me. And I remember the night. I'm not going to explain the circumstances of the evening, but it called for a wee bit of desperation and thought. And I just said, I can't do this, God. I'm sorry. I just cannot do this anymore. I can't. And I just said, I can't do it. I can't do try to keep this religious life thing. And I stopped worrying about Shabbat altogether and got my act in gear. About 12 years later, well, maybe not 12. I'd say maybe, 6 years later, maybe 7. I began to study again. I had been studying, and I began to remember Shabbat when I started having kids, and then it made sense. When I was much, much, much more careful, when I had studied with, rabbis, and I listened to lectures, and I'd studied the Chumash, and I studied the law, and studied how law is carried out, how biblical law works, and all that good stuff. And then it's almost like I could pull it off. And when I say pull it off, I mean just be with the family on Friday night and have a special meal and recognize that which God finds holy before all creation. It's not keeping Shabbat, it's just remembering Shabbat. We're not commanded to keep it, and we couldn't if we tried. That's God's day. And God shares it with his bride. Who is God's bride? Israel. We might be the skin of Israel as non-Jews who are, who choose the God of Israel and who recognize Israel as people too, 1 foot in Israel, 1 foot in the nations. But there's a danger to non-Jews and Shabbat. I think there's a danger to non-Jews putting on tefillin. I think there is a danger to it. We're very non-Jewish people in the Western world that I know of. We're actually very susceptible and raised that way. It's the common thread in godly thought, in common tongue, in common language, in common discussion. And there's a lot of ignorance that can hurt you. You won't even know it. You wonder, why is my life so screwed up? It's, are you being more religious than ethical? Are you spending more time doing religious things than actually studying? and thinking through things without, while being separate from it, even dispassionately looking at what you're doing and see it logically. I think that we can go too far. And while I've been a very big proponent of you shouldn't punish a non-Jew for recognizing Shabbat, saying Shabbat Shalom, if a non-Jew wants to keep 7 laws and is careful in keeping them for his sake alone, then maybe recognizing Shabbat is something you could do and it not negatively affect your life, because it can negatively affect your life. I've been there. I've experienced it. And the big thing is, well, you're just going to make the Jews look bad. That's one thing I was told. Well, if, we don't want to do anything that'll make anybody else think we're a Jew. I'm like, oh, what, giving to charity or, giving tzedakah, what do you mean by that? Okay, I get where, that would be like a tefillin thing that we don't want to do. It'd be a tzitzit thing that we don't want to do. If we're not part of it, if we're not in the tribe, we got no business in that. We're susceptible to ceremony. We're susceptible to all the things used to fill in the spaces that's left by modern religious thought. So yes, if you're a Noahide, if you're a Ben Noach, if you're Garish, if you will, Garish, if you don't recognize Shabbat, something is wrong. And it's already been, Rabbi Schwartz has already said there's a ruling in the Noahide court, or what they've made of is a court in Jerusalem that says, yes, a Ben Noach, a Noahide, a keeper of the 7 laws for his sake, Ben Noach, may remember Shabbat. Perhaps just even by saying Shabbat Shalom. I believe the Talmud says, so long as it's kept like a non-Jew keeps any other day, in other words, no extraneous work, you can still say Shabbat Shalom. You can still just take a minute and remember, especially in a world that has how many Sabbaths? We got one on Friday. I've heard there's a Friday resting day in Islam, right? Am I right in that? Okay, see, why I need other people in here. We've got, of course, Christians got the Sunday thing. Unless you're a Seventh-day Adventist, you're an old school. You're probably a Sunday guy, gal, person. We got Moonies, a Christian sect that does the Monday thing. So to acknowledge Shabbat is to acknowledge God and His sovereignty. Of course you should recognize the 7th day, because you're at least teaching your children, you're teaching your family what is God's special day. It's always been the 7th day. It doesn't stop. Anytime a calendar is needed to adapt to the stars, the 7th day doesn't change. The Hebrew calendar is perfect when it comes to how Shabbat works, and along with other holidays like Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, it's perfect. So there is a danger, and I would not recommend it. Like we're talking on YouTube to the average guy, it's like, yeah, it's nice that you acknowledge Shabbat, but don't go out of your way. Don't even try to go out of your way. I honestly believe it negatively affect you and can negatively impact others. 7 minutes in, I'm not hearing anything back, so I'm going to close this bad boy up. Thanks for hearing me rant. Maybe next week we'll get something done, but I wanted to be on time, wanted to be out there. You've got the Orphans of Avraham on Facebook. I'm not really active there anymore. I'm not even there anymore, actually. But, if you want to get with John Gishla, he's usually the one who heads these things up. I was going to have it on the channel, but I certainly am not prepared for any kind of lesson. I'm not here to teach you. Not anymore. James the Idol Smasher at gmail.com. Be well. Shalom, y'all.